Oh, the requirements of an athlete and the coaches of the athlete who do more than one event. Okay. There has to be the want to do more than one event, right? More than the like, oh, I just think it'd be cool to try at practice type thing. Them understanding the demands of being a multi-event athlete, right? That you have to be able to switch your brain from one event to the other and be a student of both, rather than kind of just doing one on the side or, we want you to do them both really, really well, not to have one on the back burner, right? So the commitment to that needs to be there. An athletic mindset. One of the common phrases you'll hear on our team from me and my husband is like, be athletic. A lot of these kids, like they start to think so much and we do like, just go out and be athletic, right? Get over the bar, get down the runway, get over the hurdles, like be athletic, run, have some fun, stop stressing so much about like what you think it should look like, right? And just go out and do, right? The willingness to adjust, I think, that sounds so simple, right? But for some people, that is not simple. The willingness to face adversity, right? Like, hey, you were supposed to long jump at 2 o'clock, but they're running behind, and now you got to run the 60 final, and that's at 2:30. So, like, we're gonna have like kids that can handle that fluctuation in schedule, right? There's a lot of event parallels as well too. So there's some kids that end up doing more than other events, over. And these are just some of the combinations that we've had of kids, right? I've had a lot of kids that have been 400-meter runners and high jumpers, which like I guess on paper it makes sense, but also doesn't. I don't know. Those kids a lot of time end up being combined event athletes, to be honest with you. But the high jump, long jump combination, pole vault and long jump, the pole vault and long jump have the same approach. Essentially, one's just got a pole in their hand, right? But the rhythm's pretty similar. And then pole vault and javelin, that top arm, that motion. And stuff. So we've had some crossover with some of those events. There's other ones too. Like I said, we've had a lot of kids like sprint and triple jump, high jump and triple jump, different stuff like that. Requirement of the coaches, which I think is sometimes a hard pill to swallow for coaches. You have to be able to work together with the other coaches on staff. So if you're sharing athletes, right? Like let's say that you are the jumps coach and that they're working out with the sprinter, like you've got to know what they're doing at sprint practice before you take them to jumps practice and just do whatever you want with them, right? Same as that sprint coach needs to know what's on the schedule for jumps practice. So I think they're being open and honest communication in order to have successful athletes that can successfully do more than one event well with different coaches. There has to be an open line of communication, right? You can't do a full jumps practice and a full sprints practice in one day. Like kids they can't handle the volume of what should be done on paper in order to do that, right? So working together and making sure that you know what's going on. I do have a sample later in the presentation of what like a typical sprint practice looks like for us, and then I explain where I would plug in their jump stuff and how we would adjust that as well too. There's some examples. Picking and choosing what's important to you as a coach. So, what do you believe as their coach is the most important part of the development in those events? Okay. When you have kids that do a lot of different events, I think sometimes as coaches, right, we all want them, we know the demands of every event, right? Like in order to be good at the hurdles, you need to do this. In order to be good at the 800, this, the high jump, this, and right. But no athlete can do 100% of what they need to do for each one of those events, like the kids that do just that as an open event do. Right? Does that make sense? Right. So if the kid is just a long jumper, they can do more than the kid that's a long jumper and a hurdler and a javelin thrower, right? So you kind of have to pick and choose and kind of decide where you're going to put emphasis and where you're going to make like successions in each event. It can be different for different athletes, right? If you've got a kid that's pretty far along, right, and like they can handle having a little less volume in speed work because you're kind of at a good place with speed development with them, you could pull it from that day. If you're a kid that like maybe their starting blocks are great, right? So they don't need to be at the start of sprints practice when they're doing starting blocks every single day. They can come over and see you for 45 minutes before they go over and finish the rest of the sprints workout, stuff like that. So one-on-one coaching at events, be patient with their progress. Sometimes ignorance is bliss too with these kids. Like I think when you've got a kid that does a lot of different events and they do them well, sometimes I appreciate when they're just like, was that good? I'm like, yep, do it again, right? Or you pick you pick one or two things to pull out. Whereas like you've got your kids that like they eat, sleep, and breathe the pole vault, and that's all that they do, and they can get, which I love too, they get super technical into it and talking about body position, all this stuff, and then you've got this kid that you see twice a week to come do the long jump and they just barrel down the runway and they jump and they're like, what can I do better? And you're like, be tall. I don't know. Right. So keeping it at a level that you know that you can still coach, right? Everybody gets to a point where they need to get better and they need to know more about their event, but like not putting too much on those kids too soon, I think is important, right? My thoughts, right? When I have kids that do different events, my biggest thing is like, did I get them as strong as I could? Did I get them as fast as I could? Right? It's not on here, but what needs to be on here. Are they fit enough to be able to handle doing multiple events? Right? I have a young lady right now that's a senior for us. She does the long jump and the triple jump. She's also one of our best 60-meter athletes, competes in the 200, is in the 4x1, and things like that. She, we came in her freshman year, we tried to do all the things, right? She wasn't necessarily fit enough to do that yet. Right. So we pulled back a little bit on one, right? And then we kind of taught her like she didn't triple jump yet. So then we taught her the triple jump her sophomore year and we kind of only triple jumped. Her junior year, like she had some injuries and like the fitness wasn't really there. So we had to pull back a little bit. And now we're in her senior year and like myself and Coach K, her sprints coach have sat down and we're like, I think she's ready to do a little bit more in each area, right? But we've had to kind of adjust to have her ready when we needed to have her ready because she's an incredibly talented young lady, but her body can't necessarily handle the fitness that is needed to compete in all four events on one day, right? So we try to pick and choose where we place that stuff and it's changed every year, right? So making sure the fitness is there is important. And then with kids, if I have a kid's limited amount of time, approaches and setup is like my biggest thing in the jumping events for kids, and or approaches to hurdle one, right? The block and the javelin, the setup and the shot, things like that. The basics and the bones of the event are what's really important to me if I have a limited amount of time with the kid, right? Your flight path is predetermined in the jumps. So however you set that jump up and you take off, that's what you get, right? So if you only see a kid one day a week working on finishing drills with them when the other parts of the jump aren't great is not going to help you, right? If they can't set it up well. So I kind of have to pick and choose what I do with those kids and where they are and what's important for their long-term success. And, you kind of have to make some concessions. So practice and load management. So, um, a basic outline for what structure looks like for sprints and so our sprints and hurdles practices and our jumps practices. Myself and our sprints coach here follow kind of a similar setup during the week, which is nice. So for the athletes that we do share, right, it matches up. It matches up pretty well. So I know what he's doing. He knows what I'm doing. I know what days they're going to be lifting and different things like that. So for us, kids that have event work that they need to get in, right? Monday is going to be some tech work, right? So that might be short approach jumps, that might be hurdle drills, it might be, I don't know, different things, different drills. Then they do acceleration, volume, and then they have lifting. Tuesday is going to be tempo and circuits, right? More of your recovery day. Wednesday is typically, and this is an off-season time, not a meet. So, I mean, I have a meet on there, but probably wouldn't put it on Wednesday for the full approaches if it was actually meet. We'd swap Wednesday and Tuesday. But anyways, I digress. Event work, approaches, speed, and then lifting depending on the kid, right? And then Thursday, mobility, maybe some super light event work for a kid. Like that we're talking, I've got some box drills I do for a triple jump that are super low impact. Maybe some like fence drills for the hurdles. You could high jump on this day as well too, because the high jump falls in a weird spot neurologically. And then Friday is pre-meet. If we don't have a meet, you would repeat like Monday or Wednesday on that Friday. And then if they're off Saturday and Sunday, or pre-meet and then they'd have a meet on Saturday. So volume and intensity considerations, multiple event training does not mean just adding up all the training for all the individual events. So where this comes into play when I talk about load management is that when you write down the training for one event, and then you've got a kid that's in that event, and then you write down the training for another event and the kid's in that event. You can't just marry the two and do all of the volume and all of the work and think that it's going to work for a kid, right? You have to meet in the middle. And that looks different for different kids, right? So you kind of have to figure that out. One of the things that with the athletes that I specifically coach, that do the combined event, which would be the heptathlon or the pentathlon, I am their only coach. So I manage everything they do, like volume wise, point A to point B, like the whole the whole thing, which I think is nice. Just because I don't have too many different hands in the bucket and I know what's going on, right? Like I can control what they're going to do on a daily basis. For the athletes that I share, whatever their primary event is, most kids are going to have a primary event. I tend to let that coach take the lead on what they would like them to do and where they're willing to make concessions.